7 years ago, Jake Carter had been working as a park ranger in the vast wilderness of Montana when he stumbled upon an unexpected discovery. A tiny, abandoned wolf pup lying on the forest floor. The pup, no more than a few weeks old, was emaciated, shivering, and alone. The howling winds of the mountain pass were starting to pick up, and Jake knew the little creature wouldn't survive much longer without help. Without hesitation, Jake scooped the pup into his arms, feeling its tiny body tremble against him. He had raised wolves in the past, but he never expected to find one so young, so vulnerable, so far from any known pack. Jake took the pup back to his cabin, where he carefully tended to it, feeding it milk and keeping it warm by the fire. He named the wolf pup Shadow, because of the striking black fur that seemed to shimmer in the moonlight. As weeks passed, Shadow grew stronger. Jake fed him, nurtured him, and provided him with everything he needed to survive. But he also made sure Shadow didn't lose his wild instincts. He took the pup on long walks in the forest, teaching him how to track animals, how to respond to the sounds of the wild. It was clear from the very start that Shadow had a special connection to the wilderness, and Jake felt deeply honored to be part of his journey. But as much as Jake loved Shadow, he knew the wolf was meant to be free. When Shadow was old enough to fend for himself, Jake made the heart-wrenching decision to release him back into the wild. It wasn't easy, watching the once tiny pup now standing strong in the wilderness, ready to return to his natural habitat. With a final pat on his head, Jake let Shadow go, watching as the wolf disappeared into the forest, his eyes filled with both pride and sadness. Life went on for Jake, but he never forgot about Shadow. Every time he walked the trails, he would pause and listen for any sound of wolves. He thought about the wolf often, wondering where he was and whether he had found a pack to call his own. But time passed, and eventually, Jake found peace knowing that Shadow was out there, living the life he was born to live. Then, 7 years later, it happened. Jake was on a solo hike through the dense woods when he noticed something unusual: a series of familiar tracks in the snow. The paw prints were large, but the distinct shape of the tracks made his heart skip a beat. Could it be? Jake followed the prints cautiously, unsure of what to expect, his breath clouding in the cold air. The further he went, the more the tracks seemed to converge, leading him deeper into the forest. And then, suddenly, there he was, a figure emerging from the trees, tall and majestic, his fur a mix of silver and black. The wolf stopped in his tracks, his piercing eyes locking onto Jake's. Time seemed to stand still as they both stared at one another, the years between them vanishing in an instant. It was Shadow. Jake could feel it in his bones. The same wolf pup he had raised was now an adult, strong and wild, yet somehow still the same. For a long moment, neither moved. Jake's heart raced as he watched Shadow approach cautiously, his movements graceful and deliberate. The wolf stopped just a few feet away, tilting his head slightly, as if recognizing the man who had once saved him. Jake crouched down, his hand outstretched, but he knew better than to try and touch the wolf. This wasn't the same pup he had raised. This was a creature of the wild, untamed and free. Then, in a surprising turn of events, Shadow let out a soft growl, one that wasn't threatening but rather a greeting. And then he turned, looking back toward the forest. Jake understood immediately. Shadow had come to say goodbye. With one last look at the man who had once been his caretaker, Shadow turned and vanished into the trees, his silhouette fading into the snowy forest. Jake stood there for a moment, overcome with emotion. He had always known that one day, Shadow would return to the wild, but seeing him again, seeing how far he had come, was a bittersweet reminder of the bond they had shared. Jake smiled softly to himself, wiping a tear from his cheek. He knew now that Shadow was exactly where he was meant to be, free, wild, and part of something much larger than either of them. The reunion, brief as it was, had shown Jake that no matter how far apart they were, the connection they shared would never fade. As he walked back to his cabin, the sound of a distant wolf's howl echoed through the trees. Jake paused, closing his eyes for a moment. It was a call from the wild, a call that told him Shadow was out there, living the life he was always meant to lead. And for Jake, that was enough. Thanks for watching the video. Subscribe for more interesting videos. Like and share this video. Have a nice day.